She cooks nothing but chuck wagons, stew, and her name is Minerva. Ouch! She's the flower of the devoured goats.
Welcome one, welcome all. It is once again time for Aaron Live. I'm, of course, Aaron. Thanks for joining me today. There's no football. There's nothing major going on TV that I'm aware of. So I think we have smooth sailing today. I'm pretty excited. I did skip last week, didn't I? Yeah, because of the Super Bowl, which turned out to be a fairly boring game. And a nonsensical halftime show that an old white guy like me just didn't get, so I didn't really watch it. So I can't really complain about the halftime show because I didn't actually watch it. Some of the commercials were okay. Some of them were lame. And, I guess it, all in all, about what you'd expect for a Super Bowl Sunday. Anyway, so we're back. And boy, do I have a show for you. Lots of stuff. I have so much stuff I had to write it down. I got it written down right here, like a list right here for me to follow so that I don't get too far off track. So Shelly tells me she's down taking a nap right now. She says, one of my friends is coming over at 2:00 to drop something off. Well, it's now 3:30 and this person has not showed up. So I just know for a fact now that Shelly's laying down and the show has started that at any minute this person is going to come by. My dog's going to go nuts. I'm going to have to put on some sort of weird short film that I made, run down there, get whatever she's dropping off, then run back up here. So fair warning, this show could be a complete disaster any minute, but let's hope not. All right, let's get on this and see who's here. Creative Faye says, it's my birthday is this week. Well, happy birthday early, Creative Faye. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick is almost always here. Now, Leg Kick purchased the Captain Marvel drawing I did on Greybeards this past week, and it's been shipped out. Shipped it out yesterday. We had some snow, so I was kind of snowbound for like 2 days, and but now it's gone. It's just back to good old rainy Oregon. Let's see here. Randy Howell, all the way from Canada, says, yes, it's a strange. Oh, let me try that again. He says, yes, it's Aaron, a strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. By day, a mild-mannered comic book artist. By night, he fights evil as a talk show host on Aaron Live. Wow. That's me. It's incredible. Okay, let's see here. Stealth X5 is here. Thanks for joining us, Stealth. Toshiro, Robert the Bruce. And let's see. I heard a door close outside, so now I'm like panicking. Dr. Mask's Retro Elixir. Marcus Killigrew, purveyor of all things pop culture knowledge, is joining us. There's Jimmy Owens, says, Aaron, good day, sir. Good day, Jimmy. Thanks for joining us. Gen X Catholic. I hear Lopez, I watch. It's that simple. Thank you. Thank you very much. Daryl Wayne's joining us. Robert Doan's Pills is here. Skeleton Core Comics says, hail, Lopresti, and hail to the chat. So he includes everybody. That's nice. Andy Dalliff is joining us. Stealth X5 again for $2. Hello. Thank you, Stealth. Hello to you. There's Gary Bruce. Says, hey, tell Shelly hi, please. I just heard another door slam outside. I'm freaking out. All hell's gonna break loose in about 30 seconds. HR is here. Sean Allen. Hello, Aaron. Merilith 2005 is joining us. How about that? Nordic Nerd is here. Iodine 74. Flady 1. Tupelo Tunist. All right. I think I got everybody for the time being. We are growing in numbers even as I speak. So let's get back to the basics of the show, shall we? I mean, it seems like sometimes I skip around, I do things, and sometimes I don't do things. And it's like, there's got to be consistency. You got to be able to feel that, you know what's coming. With a few surprises, but you shouldn't ever be denied that which you expect. And so I'm going to try to get back to basics here. And let's start with this public service announcement. That's right. Like and subscribe to this channel. Why is that important? I've been doing this for several years now, and I still don't know why it's important, but I do know that if my channel grows, good things happen. So by liking and subscribing, if you're not subscribed to see this show, it doesn't cost anything. Now, people keep telling me I need to do memberships and all that kind of stuff, but I'm so confused by this. Memberships, what does that mean? It means apparently that I have to have like private content just for the membership people, which means I have to make more videos, which means I'll be doing more of this and less of drawing. So I don't know if that's a good idea, but anyway, this is what I present to you absolutely free every week. So please subscribe and hit that like button, even if you can't stand the show. There we go. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, the second thing we always do is we have a little snack, because you can't do a 2.5 hour show without a little bit of blood sugar. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right?
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Guess where I was at yesterday? Yeah, Trader Joe's, baby. Dark chocolate cherries. I almost grabbed the almonds, but I love chocolate covered almonds, but I love the chewiness of the cherry. So you have dark chocolate, you have a fruit. It's completely healthy. RFK Jr. would approve, I think. I'm pretty sure. I also got brownies, but I haven't cracked those open yet. God, these dark chocolate cherries, man, they're addicting. Do you ever notice I'm like a little kid? I'm so fidgety. I'm constantly doing this, moving around, doing this. Guys that are really good at this, they just sit there. I mean, I got the radio voice going, like Ethan does a really fine job of, you don't see him shifting around and, I am what I am. Constantly trying to get comfortable, never quite getting there. That's a good cherry. All right. So far, we've done everything that we normally do. We started off on the right foot. That's what I like to think. There it is, right? Aaron, stop squirming in your seat or it's detention again. Creative Face says Graham is fidgety too. Well, Billy is fidgety. So they got a lot of guys that are fidgety, I guess. I shouldn't bear the weight of that criticism all by myself. Jimmy Owen says, Aaron, you can do memberships so we can support you as well, such as a $5 per month. You would have to make badges showing we are members, however. I have these, I used to have these great visions because I remember when I say I used to have great visions, I don't mean like, I fell into a trance and had this vision, but I imagine myself, doing like a fan club or something, right? And I remember like, people when I was growing up, there were artists that had like, join the fan club, right? And you get a newsletter once a month and you get the Howard the Duck sticker or whatever, And I always thought, that's so much fun. I don't know that I ever joined one, but as I got older, not as old as I am now, but I mean like as an adult and became a professional within this industry, I kept thinking, I should do that. I should do like a fan club thing where I, produce, something. The problem with that is you got to mail stuff out all the time. Now, I guess we could do a digital format where you just get, digital download type stuff. But see, all this requires like planning and thinking and effort. Just the things I'm not good at. Maybe someday. When you guys quit buying my books, then I'll have to be doing this full time and then I'll have to do a membership, I guess. Jimmy Owens says, I'm sure Ethan could help you. His membership is great. I've been a member. Yeah, but he provides extra stuff for the membership. That's kind of my whole point. It's not necessarily figuring out how to do it. It's just like, God, do I have the time to, it's like, I got that book right over there. There's a page right there on the drawing table right now for Wraith of God 3. So it's like, do I push that aside and do more YouTube stuff? And I was thinking earlier today, it just kind of came to my mind. I thought, what YouTube has brought, not just to this industry, but just to commerce in general, in that it's like another avenue where everybody wants to be a YouTube star, right? And so you got to figure out, well, do I have the personality for it? Do I have the face for it? Do I have the voice for it? What's my content going to be? Do I have content that people are interested in? And, it's like being an actor, right? You've got a million people that want to be YouTube personalities, YouTubers, make money on YouTube, right? But there's going to be millions that don't succeed and a few that do. Just like in actors or artists or whatever. Anybody can do it, but how do you get your audience and what does it take to get that audience? Because I have seen what I think are some pretty lame orators have YouTube channels that are incredibly successful. Now, I guess that's because of the top subject matter they talk about. We here, we meaning me talking and you listening, and of course, participating in the chat. We talk about comic books. We talk about comic art. We talk about illustration, stuff that nobody cares about with, like this small, maybe football stadium full of people care about. Now, if I was talking about the latest Marvel movie or, whatever the latest political thing was, we'd probably have a larger audience, maybe. But I don't know. This is what I want to talk about. So that's what I do. I got a comic rack right behind me, for crying out loud. There it is. And that's, I got books. You see these books? That doesn't even scratch the surface of the amount of books I have in the studio. And most of them, I can say all of them are either comic book or art or movie related. So it's who I am. So how could I YouTube about something that I'm not? I don't know. Well, I'm fidgeting again. I can't get comfortable. This chair sucks. Now, see, I watch Andy's show, and Andy has this really nice chair, and he says it's a gaming chair. Now, I'm not a gamester, so I wouldn't know these things, but it looked really comfortable, and he said it is. So I'm wondering if I had a really comfortable chair, if that would keep me from fidgeting, or if I would just continue this sort of moving around like, a moving target or something. I don't know. Eric Boyd says, if Aaron had a membership, he'd have to offer emojis featuring bottles of Metamucil and Uranus symbols. I would have to offer this to you. There we go. That's for Eric right out of the gate. You're talking about Savage Sword, Henry Jeremick says, is that Savage Sword that Neil Adams donated these? It has Gray Morrow inked by Krusty Bunkers, Neil Adams and Krusty Bunkers. Was it Gray Morrow? No, Ralph Reese. No, somebody like that. And the Savage Tales up there, that Kazar issue, I don't know that there's... wait a minute. I do have the Buscema de Zanuga issue, but that's like higher grade, so that's actually with my comics, not on the rack. We'll get into that actually a little bit later. With Spaceman, makes me sad that Marvel took the characters I grew up loving and turned them into crap. I know, but that's what we're here for, is to provide you with new characters that are actually better than what other companies have done and failed with. That's sort of the trick, isn't it? I was thinking about this too, There's so much that goes into having a successful comic book or an IP. And, everybody says, do what you love, right? And you'll always be successful. That's not true. You have to do what you love, genre-wise, I would imagine, or media-wise, or medium or wise, depending on, if you're a comic book fan, a movie fan, music, whatever you're doing. But it's important to do things your way, but it's also important to keep in mind that you have an audience that you're hoping will support your project, whatever it may be. So you have to take into consideration, is this going to be popular? Am I creating something that has a chance to catch on? Or am I just doing something that's weird that I created when I was 8 and I'm always dreamt about doing it, so I'm going to do it come hell or high water? You have to take into consideration these other factors. And there's no guaranteeing that it'll ever will be a success. But you take these things into consideration and give yourself the best chance to succeed. What am I even talking about? I don't know. But, so Wraith of God has been fairly successful within the independent market, which is a different gauge of success than, say, the direct comic book market would be in terms of numbers of sales. And it was calculated risk, but I also designed it in a way that I thought, well, it's a risk, but the character looks pretty cool, so that's going to help. You know, the characters are interesting and they have an interesting relationship, so that's going to help. You know, so there's all these things you have to take into consideration, and but I think for the most part, a lot of people in this indie sphere, Comicsgate, and even beyond, there's a lot of good ideas and good IPs out there and good characters that people can get into. So as we all kind of sit around and long for the silver and bronze age of Marvel, even in the 80s, the copper age, if you will, was really kind of a renaissance period in comics as well. There's still some stuff out there, I think, that is engaging. So you just got to dig deeper to find it. Wow. I couldn't agree more. Look at that. Could not agree more. I'm boring myself. So let's move off that and get on to the show. And the first thing we want to do on the show is take a look at what Frazetta has to offer us this week. And this, of course, is Pellucidar. We've been doing his Pellucidar series of illustrations, paintings, if you will. And this is the final one I'm doing before we move on to something else. So I've done this one before on the show, but it is my favorite Frazetta painting of all time, and it is part of the Pellucidar series, so we're doing it again. Here we go. Yeah, that's Back to the Stone Age. Actually, the name of the painting is officially or unofficially Mammoth. But it was for the paperback, Ace paperback, Back to the Stone Age, which, of course, was the first Edgar Rice Burroughs book I ever bought. I was 10, 11 years old. It was just the cover, of course, that giant mammoth bursting through the trees. You know, the heroic looking dude, although the dude's naked, and you're like, man, if you're running through the jungle or whatever without any, cover, without girding up your loins, girding up your loins, what if you had to go through like a blackberry bush or something? I mean, I'm not fighting mammoths without at least some sort of pants on. But anyway, the guy's, I love that forearm that has that vein in it, that's holding the spear back like that. I love everything about that cover. It's just incredible. And that is the only, it's the first and maybe the only, don't quote me on that, award-winning Frazetta cover. And what's the sci-fi award? Is it the Saturn Award, something like that? So he won like a award for best science fiction cover or something like that for that. So that's an actually award-winning piece of work. And way back in the early 90s, when there was this big Frazetta show, it came out it had this thick hardcover gallery showing, but it was a program book that had all the paintings. It's a great book. And it was for sale at that time for like $500,000. I can't imagine what that thing would go for now. Over $1 million for sure. A little bit out of my price range. So there you go. Yeah, there it is. I mean, come on, cover your junk. That's pretty much what we're saying. Creative Faye is trying to get me to go to SummerCon. I'm not opposed to going to SummerCon. In fact, I'm thinking about it. I haven't reached out to SummerCon yet, but I should do that soon because I like SummerCon. I'm not ever going back to Seattle for obvious reasons, so I might as well do SummerCon in Puyallup, Washington, although it's just as far a drive. But, there you have. Okay. Well, let's take a moment, if I may take a moment. I guess it's my show, so I guess I can take a moment if I want. I'm the one actually sponsoring this show today with Wraith of God 3, Fear Hollow. This is indeed my graphic novel campaign that I have going right now that I, out of necessity, I have to put before you and push on the masses. This is the third in a series of Wraith of God graphic novels. If you've missed the first two, you can run over to my website and get them right now, or you can actually order them on this campaign, but then you have to wait until this book gets done, and then they would all ship together. So depending on how desperately quickly you want to read Wraith of God 1 and 2, there are options there. What is Wraith of God? Wraith of God is kind of a Batman of the Old West. He's a monster hunter. He believes that God appeared to him, or an angel appeared to him with a message from God telling him that he had to rid the land of evil. And we're not sure if that actually was a real true vision or a drunken vision. And we're still kind of playing with those ideas in the series. But he has a partner named Esther, kind of his Alfred. And they have a very contentious relationship, but it seems to be improving over time. And they just hunt down monsters together. And in this one, the Wraith and Esther journey to Cranestown in New England someplace, the mysterious Cranestown, where the Wraith is going there because of a gut feeling of something that happened to him there 20 years ago, and he's got to go back and check to make sure that ancient evils are still buried. But guess what? If they were still buried, there wouldn't be a story. So he faces off against a witch and the Headless Horseman from his past, not to mention another villain that we've set up in Blood Hunters that we're now paying off a little bit more in this one, but still not going to reveal everything about him till a later date. So it's quite jam-packed full of action and adventure and scariness, and it's 64 pages of good family fun. Well, PG-13 fun. You have 4 cover options. There it is, Wraith of God A, Wraith of God B, which of course is the EC tribute cover, Wraith of God C, which is the 1972 Marvel box art variant cover, or the great painted cover by Chris Stevens, who we've had on this show a couple times. Here's some of the pages from the interior there. Look at that. Cranestown seems so nice and peaceful until you get deep into the woods, into the hovel of the witch. Oh, and there's our mysterious villain from Blood Hunters. Comes back his a little bit better robe this time than he was wearing in his first appearance. And his little confrontation there with the witch. But we're not going to see all that. You'd actually have to read the comic to get to see all that. Here's a little, this is page 10, I think. Nice little splash page there of the Wraith telling Esther it's time to go. We're heading to Cranestown. There's a David Williams backup story, which would only gets included if we hit $100,000. We're a long ways from that, but nothing's impossible this day and age. So we'll see. If we don't use it in this book, it'll get used someplace else. That's for sure. Stretch goals. You get a little Prestiverse retro editorial page with character value stamp added to the book. Clip them and collect them all. At 60,000, which we've hit, every backer receives a all new sculpture. That is the female character from the nightclub. You asking what's the nightclub, Aaron? Check out Wraith of God Blood Hunters, which is Wraith of God 2, and you will find out all about them. Or the Garbage Man graphic novel, trade paperback has them in there as well. At 80,000, which we will hit, every backer receives an all new trunk card. The elephant guy from the nightclub. So we'll get his trading card. And then of course, if we get to 100 grand on this one, it's the Empirus backup origin story by me and David Williams. You can also get the Wraith of God Nouveau print, 500 signed and numbered, limited edition. Once 500 are gone, they're gone. Wraith of God Roughs Volume 3. This is, excuse me. This is 48 pages of layouts that go in went into the making of the graphic novels. You kind of look behind the scenes a little bit. These are signed and numbered, limited to orders. So there's no extras or very few extras, maybe 10, 15 extras. So if you're thinking, well, I'm going to wait, don't wait, because you won't be able to get one once the campaign closes. And we have a series of shot glasses, Wraith of God, Garbage Man, Kit Carter, and now the Nightclub is our fourth in a series of 6 shot glasses that you can get. Poker chips, set of 3 commemorative chips with the Wraith, Esther, and of course the Dale Keown werewolf, which I will continue to exploit until I die of old age. And Wraith of God 1 and Wraith of God 2. If you're interested in the multiple covers that were available on Wraith of God 2, you have to go to my website. But just through this campaign, we just have the wraparound, the award-winning wraparound cover for you to choose from. And there's actually a couple pieces of original artwork left. These have all sold, but I believe this is still available. This, of course, is Lord Menace from Kit Carter Planet Doom graphic novel, which you will also find available on my website. And then this was one of the trading cards that came with the Kit Carter, was one of the stretch goals. And this is Mr. Midnight, and he is part of the Nightclub as well. So the original art for that is still available. Everything else has been sold, I believe. So there you go. You'll find a link in the description of this video. Take you right to that campaign. If you haven't backed yet, please consider doing so. This is, folks, one of the best graphic novels out there today, whether mainstream or indie. I only say that because I wrote and drew it, so who else is going to say it if I don't? And but it is true. It's good. So please check it out if you haven't. And also, you'll find a link to my website in the description of this video. Take you right to my website where you can find all sorts of good and fun things. How about that? Now that we've done all of this, now we do more. Angela Curry, Angela Chocolates Curry is here. Thanks for joining us, Angela. Robert the Bruce, he knows it's award-winning. He knows it is. Nate13 says, incredible art. Thank you, Nate. Appreciate that very much. Paul Taylor saying award-winning? Really? No, I won something. One of those Who Gives a Darn awards or whatever. I think I won best cover or something. I mean, it's an award. Hey, I count any ones I can get. I still have my drama award from 9th grade. So, okay, enough of that. According to my list here, it says we're supposed to do this now. It's so much to do. So if I just do it in order, it should go smoothly. I got to find my little intro. You'll have to forgive me. Oh, here it is. Yeah, good old Jack Davis. Now I think we featured him on my Who's This Guy, the Illustrators segment, but we're going to just look specifically at his top comic book covers. Now he's interesting because I am working my way through the Golden Age up to the Silver Age, and Jack's an interesting character because he started in the 50s in the Golden Age, and which is still the tail end of the Golden Age, but then also did work into the Silver Age. So we're going to have some of his covers are going to cross from the 50s into the 60s, but what can you do? That's just how we're going to play it. So let's take a look. I think I got these in the right order, probably. Now remember, these are my favorites. It's not really a top 10. I think there's 11. Well, maybe there's 10. No, there's 10 this time. So it's, these are just some of, I think, his best covers. If you don't agree, you know what? I'll cannonball you. How's that? Okay. This isn't even a cover, but I wanted to show it because I think it's cool. So pretend this is a cover, even though it really isn't. Okay. I was in a show in Eugene, Oregon, many moons ago. And a guy, I don't even think I was just breaking into comics. So it would have been probably early 90s. And this guy just had this on his table. I'd never seen it before. And it's a print, and I've got it, and it's signed. I got mine is signed in pencil by Jack Davis on it. I think I paid $50 for it back then, and I still have it. It's hanging on the wall, literally right over here. So, but I always loved this piece, and I don't know if it was used for anything other than the print, the Frankenstein print. But there you go. Probably used it for something else, but there you go. Pastmaster Dan said this came as a door cover. So it's like a giant poster kind of thing. Okay, there you go. But I do have something with Jack Davis's signature on it. That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's take a look at his covers. Now this is exactly what I was talking about, like him crossing over into the 60s. This is 1964. This is Creepy #1, Comics to Give You the Creeps. And it is a collector's edition, and I do have a copy of it. And yes, it is in near mint condition. I don't know that he did any other Creepy covers, because I think the next several were Frazetta covers, if I'm not mistaken. But he did get to draw the first issue. Now, the thing about Jack Davis did every genre, which we will take a look at here. And he did them all well, but he did them with a sense of humor, right? I mean, you could say he's an illustrator / cartoonist. He's somewhere in the middle. He did great, but every illustration he did had a sense of humor to it. It was usually like, if he was doing likenesses, it was usually a caricature. If he did horror, he did some gross things, but because of his style of art, never really seemed all that threatening. It seemed more fun. And maybe that's the thing I liked so much about Jack Davis, is that as a kid reading this stuff, I never got too scared because of his lighthearted approach to just about everything. Now, this is, I think, one of his lesser known horror covers, but I really like it. I don't own it, but I will make I'm making an attempt to find it. So this is from the EC archives, but this is like Tales from the Crypt. I think it's in the late 30s, 38, 39, somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe 40, 41, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, I love this cover, but the weird thing about this cover is the placement of the moon. I mean, perfectly behind the zombie's head makes it look like he's an astro zombie, that he's like that's like a space helmet is what that looks like when you first look at it. Then you go, oh, no, wait a minute. That's the moon. So that's kind of odd placement. I would have put that off center a little bit, but I still love it. Because at first, when I first saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, a zombie, space alien. But then I said, oh, wait a minute, that's the moon. So, I'll take it either way, but it's, look at it. Look at the worms coming out of his head up here in his ear and stuff. I mean, this is just like super gross. And yet with the Jack Davis style to it, it seems kind of fun. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just sick. Yeah, too low saying lighthearted. I don't know. It's just there's a bit of exaggeration and cartooniness. It's kind of like Arthur Adams, It's a very pleasant style. So if he's drawing monsters or something, there's something sort of pleasant about them. Sean Allen says these box covers were a bad idea. Yeah, I like them, maybe just from nostalgia, but they are very limiting in terms of, you have to fit everything into this smaller area, which makes it kind of frustrating. Paul Taylor, Pleasant Monsters. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I want to believe. I really, really do. There's one of these on eBay right now, but it's just for what the guy's asking for it and the actual condition it's in. I'm not a taker on it. I've got to wait. The price and the condition have to be right in that sweet spot. Okay. Now this, maybe a lot of you have not seen this or not. No, I think I showed this on the Professionals when we were doing Christmas or something, but I've always loved this cover. Now there's several of these on eBay right now. And it's not that expensive of a book. And I wouldn't even buy it necessarily for its condition. It has to be decent condition. But I just love the cover so much. I want to own this. This was, what's his face? The guy who used to work for Mad started publishing his own kind of version of Mad magazine called Humbug. Didn't last very long. But again, a tremendous Jack Davis, Scrooge. Leg Kick for 5 says Wraith goes to space and fights a zombie astronaut. Could be a new story. Could be a Kit Carter. I do have Kit Carter versus the Astro Zombies. That is a possibility as well. Published this, and it was not successful. But I love that cover. So eventually I will own this and ogle the Jack Davis cover. I don't know if he did anything inside, but that's Humbug number 6, by the way. Paul Taylor for $10 Canadian. Thank you, Paul. He says, stop the presses. Aaron doesn't want to buy something for the condition. Next thing you know, he won't be buying slabbed books anymore. The world is ending. No, because I have What Did Aaron Buy Now feature in the show in a little bit. And you'll see that I have not changed my slabbed ways. But occasionally, I'll buy Savage Tales magazines and stuff for a certain Buscema story that I want. And the only reason I'm buying it is to look at the story. So there's no way I would get it slabbed or even get it in. Well, I can get it in near mint condition, but just be careful when I read it. Because I always try to get high grade stuff. I just do. But that doesn't always have to be slabbed. Not for that. He did so much stuff. Album covers. I know the one you're talking about for Johnny Cash. Of course, Reader's Digest, magazine covers, just crazy the amount of work the guy did. Tupelo Tunis for 5, thank you, sir. Says, his Mad Monster Party character designs make me kind of sad that Davis never drew any of the comic adaptations. I know. That stuff was so good. Okay, so let's move along here and let's take a look at how about a war comic? You wouldn't think of Jack Davis as a war comic artist. And yet, this is such a wonderful cover. You got this isolated soldier standing here. All these dead bodies around him. And this guy, grabbing at him, probably with his last breath. This is Two-Fisted Annual. War and Fighting Men. Just a great, stark, wonderfully executed cover. Well, here it is. Paul Taylor, so far so good. Horror and war, no romance. I don't know that Jack Davis ever did a romance cover. If he did, it's news to me. Worked with Harvey Kurtzman on that cover, says Marcus Kilgore. I believe it. It has at first when I saw this small, I thought, God, that looks like a Kurtzman cover. But then when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's Davis. But it clearly looks like a Kurtzman layout. But again, excellent cover. Now, I don't own this, but my friend does. I have a friend who owns a really nice VF copy of this. One of his more famous Tales from the Crypt covers. But you can see that, again, it's a scary cover, but at the same time, it's, this guy's face is so cartoonish in a way that, I don't know, it doesn't seem as threatening as it might otherwise. And that's not a criticism. I actually kind of like it. Like I said, it's pleasant monstering. More if a kid, it wouldn't be as terrifying for me because Jack Davis's kind of charm to his artwork. but I still like it. It's still kind of creepy and weird and cool. I'm like a big Star Trek fan, Paul. I like make up my own language, like Klingonese. This is Aranese. I speak Aranese. Now, this is an awesome one, and I actually own this one. And the one I have is in pretty nice condition. It's not slabbed, by the way. So I was at a comic book show here in Portland, and Chris, the owner of I Like Comics in Vancouver, had his booth set up, and I saw this book there. I've told this story before, but gosh darn it, I'll tell it again. And so I saw it on the wall, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I don't know what it was at the time, because this could have been 10 years ago now, but I think he wanted $250 for it or something, or $200. And he said, hey, if you come to my, because I brought it up there to buy it, and I said, what's the best price you can give me on this? And he said, hey, if you come into my shop for free comic book day, you can have it. I went, oh, that's a deal. So I took the comic book for free and then went to free comic book day at his shop. And, but there you go. You have this huge gross Frankenstein face in the foreground. You got Jack the Ripper strangling this poor girl. I want you also to notice on these EC books, the Crypt Keeper is Jack Davis. The Old Witch was Graham Ingalls. And this is Feldstein, Stiff Figures Feldstein. But the really good Vault Keeper is by, not Feldstein, but Marcus, help me out. I know you know off the top. I can't off the top of my head. It was, oh, dear Lord, I'm so mad at myself. I'll think of it in a minute. But each one of these guys sort of redefined each of these horror hosts and get Johnny Craig. No, I just said Johnny Craig. Didn't I? Oh my gosh. Somebody slap me. No, really don't. Don't slap me. Paul Taylor says, Jenny Craig. Wait a minute. Whoa. Blue Boy says, I saw this week Jack the Ripper has been DNA identified now. Finally. Seriously? Is that serious? They know who he was officially. Seriously? I gotta check that out. Johnny Craig. Thank you. Yeah, it was Johnny Craig that defined the Vault Keeper, but that one on this particular cover, that's Al Feldstein. Thank you. He says, yes, Google it, Aaron. I'm going to. This is fascinating. Wow. We know who Jack the Ripper is. I'll have to talk about that. I can't do it on this show because I have so many other things planned, but maybe next week. What an awesome topic that is. Okay, let's move along here on Jack Davis's. Now, this is a heck of a. This is another war comic cover. Look at that. I love these sort of ironic little statements. Shots from the hill. Douse that light. Too late. Guy's dead. What a great close-up, and the framing device and the color. Very monochromatic, where you really only, your real color here is that light source. Oh, it's just fantastic. I love this. I should actually buy this comic. I wonder how probably not that expensive. Two-Fisted Tales, I don't think are that expensive in terms of, overall cost compared to other Golden Age books of this time. That the monster books are super expensive. Superhero books obviously are super expensive, but the horror stuff is way more expensive than the war stuff, and that's a great cover. 100% DNA match. How did they save DNA for Jack the Ripper for that long? I mean, do they have like pieces of clothing or something, or like the murder weapon? I mean, how do they have DNA from Jack the Ripper? Leg Kick says it's Bigfoot. He was Jack the Ripper, 100% match. So they're saying the guy was white. Oh, that's a shocker. Anyway, Angela Curry says, invite Graham to discuss Jack the Ripper. I love it when you guys geek out about monster stuff. Cheers. That'd be a good idea. $5. Thank you for that, chocolates. Appreciate it very much. And okay, moving right along. Now, this is the last issue of Tales from the Crypt. So this one's actually, I'm not going to say it's rare, but it's scarcer than the other titles. It's the last issue, so your print run was lower on this. Another great Jack Davis werewolf cover there. Now here you have the proper artists. So you have Jack Davis on the Crypt Keeper, Graham Ingalls on the Old Witch, and Johnny Craig on the Vault Keeper. So there you go. I used to own this, though, when I was a kid. It wasn't in great condition. I traded all my good stuff when I was 19 for a copy of Spider-Man #2. And then I've been like rebuying most of it to this day. All right. And here's my #1 cover for Jack Davis. You guys probably won't agree on this. I love this cover. In fact, I almost bought a copy of this a couple months ago and I talked myself out of it. I just love the body language on this pitcher, this baseball player catching the ball here. I feel in my bones someone is giving me the evil eye. So this is Mad Magazine #2. Actually, it was Mad Comic Book #2 before it became a magazine. But this is what, Jack Davis was just, I mean, the way he messed around with, the flexibility of his characters, the anatomy, the exaggeration. That's the kind of stuff that gets people's attention. And that's why we're talking about Jack Davis right now instead of, many others who were very talented artists, but didn't have that extra special oomph. Henry Jeremick says, Aaron, you're right. I disagree. Here we go. Skeleton Corpse Comics says, yeah, it was from some cloth that had old blood on it from one of the crime scenes. They took DNA from a descendant of one of the suspects, matched all the markers. God, how would it feel to be like a descendant of Jack the Ripper? That would just be, I would not be happy to find out that news. I would not be happy. Very interesting stuff, though. So anyway, there you go. There's Jack Davis's best covers, in my opinion, from his Golden Age work. Now, of course, there's tons of book covers and tons of album covers and tons of magazine covers that we didn't cover. This is just comic books. But those are some of my fave Jack Davis covers. Okay, so one of the other things I advertised was, people always ask me, this is going to be kind of a short segment, but I kind of wanted to address this because I've talked about it forever, but I could never find the picture. I found the picture. Now, I couldn't find it online. I found it in a book, so I'm going to have to hold the book up. But people will always ask me, where'd you get the idea for Kit Carter, right? And I've told the story of how I was just trying to come up with a concept to do on a sketchbook cover. I never had any intention of doing it as a series or anything. And so the name, I just came up with something that sounded like an adventure name, and but the visual of a bubble helmet space girl, where did that come from? Well, it came from two sources that I specifically remember. This is one of them. Now, this, of course, is Dave Stevens' Alien Worlds cover, #4. So I did buy this in the 80s, of course. Now, Dave wasn't the first one to come up with this concept. This, of course, is his take on old EC sci-fi bubble helmet comics. But this was definitely, is that a hot dog down there? What the heck is that? Anyway, this kind of, short blonde hair concept. This is one of the things that, I went back to. That was kind of a throwback to me. Of course, Frazetta was doing it. Wally Wood was doing it in the 50s, the Bubba Helmet Space Girl, I mean. And that's where Stevens got this from, the concept, the idea. And then, of course, you know, I saw the EC stuff, but this one is one that stood out to me. Here's the other. I just was flipping through the price guide for other information the other day on another segment I'm going to do shortly. And I flipped across and found this. Now, this is a drawing by Bill Stout. And it's for David T. Alexander Collectibles. Now, he did this years ago, like late 70s, early 80s. And I remember seeing the black and white of this, not the color version here, but the black and white of this, like as a much younger, like teenager. And it stuck with me. Okay, again, you have the girl with the short blonde hair, right? Look, they need your collection. Professional prices paid. So anyway, these are the two modern, I don't know if you can call something, you know, 50 years old modern, but apart from the EC stuff, these are the two illustrations that sort of informed my visual ideas about what Kit Carter might be when I finally got around to doing it and drawing Kit Carter. And again, it was just a 50s sci-fi space babe. And that, you know, as a cover illustration, was never meant to be, at least in its initial conception, a graphic novel or comic strip or anything like that. And yet here we are. So anyway, there you go. Finally put it to rest. Those are the two illustrations that probably most influenced my Kit Carter. Well, Paul Taylor claims to be modern, and of course he's saying he's over 40 and he's modern, so there you go. Okay. Now that's out of the way. And I don't ever have to address that again until someone who didn't see the show asks me once again. But now, folks, let's take a journey around my old wooden flat files and see what art I might be able to produce today. We're going to take a look in my portfolios really quickly. Most of this stuff is Graybeard stuff, but there's also some other stuff in there. It's amazing to me how quickly a year can go by or 2 years go by. We're on Graybeard Studio, which of course is my live drawing show every Wednesday afternoon, right here on this channel, by the way. How quickly we've done 105 episodes, and that's, you do one a week. That's roughly 2 years. How quickly that time can go by. And yeah, I've sold a lot of the art that I've done on that show, but I've also still have a bunch of art that I've done on that show. And I had one piece that I wanted to show you guys that I recently dug out of my flat files and then finished just a couple of days ago. But it's in the portfolio with all this other stuff. And I thought, oh, let's just flip through it real quick and see what we still have there. So let's do that quickly. We'll switch cameras here. It seems like the right thing to do. So this is what I initially was going to show you, was this, is it Chun-Li from Street Fighter? So those of you who watched Graybeards this last Wednesday know that I did a Green Lantern drawing on Graybeards that I promised to give to Andy Smith, and I have not been able to find it. So I'm continuing to search through flat files and stuff. And as I did, I found a pencil drawing of this Chun-Li here. And I'm like, why didn't I finish that? So I got out the old brush pen, this Kiritaki, or no, zebra brush pen. It's all Japanese anyway. And ate the sucker up. So there it is. And then I was looking through it and going, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, what about this? Well, some of you may remember from Graybirds when we did image characters. And what's this guy's name? I can't even remember. The Max. That was my version of the Max. I think Malin was on this show, John, and he did a pretty impressive drawing of the Max. I don't think it was, better than this, but of course on the show I told him I thought it was better because I wanted him to feel good. I honestly don't remember when I did the Hobgoblin, but there he is. So I did the Hobgoblin, and then of course the Goon. I kind of like how that one turned out. That was kind of fun. And then, of course, the classic Predator versus Alien, which people didn't really appreciate my version of the Alien there. But E.T., as we know, is an alien, so that qualifies. So we have Predator about ready to lay siege to poor little E.T. here. This is something Bandahoo. What's this guy's name? This was a Kelsey topic. And I was able to do, he's got Rat Fink's eyes, but he's Crash Bandahoo or Bandalay or whatever. Thank you. A Silent Spirit. Crash. Yes. Then this is another one of Kelsey's weird ideas where we did the Shadow as a gag cartoon. And so there he is, where Margot is saying, we can all see you, right? As he forgot to put his pants on and forgot to turn himself invisible. Comedy ensues. Star Trek episode, that's the Mugatu and that witch doctor chick that was in that episode. Pretty saucy. This was the Stranko episode where I did this is the Gravedigger from Tower of Shadows, and then we did a Looney Tunes one. So I did, of course, Bugs Bunny and Mr. Hyde from that classic Friz Freleng cartoon. We had Bill Sienkiewicz Day. It produced this really kind of bizarre looking Moon Knight. Involved a lot of finger painting. Now this, this is a Lord of the Rings piece I did way back in 2019 that I'm shocked that it's still in my portfolio. I would have figured this would have sold ages ago because it's really a nice piece, but there it sits. This is Jaguar God, Frazetta character. I just did this for recreation. But even that, what I do for recreation is, of course, for sale. Now, this is a classic right here. Scooby-Doo and Mr. Hyde, or Shaggy and Mr. Hyde. This is almost 2 years ago. See, Kelsey used to paint a lot of his stuff. And so that always put pressure on us to keep up with him. Now we're, it's mostly just black and white because there's no Kelsey there to kind of push our buttons. But also, we don't draw quite as long as we used to. We used to just go until it was done. Sometimes the shows would go 3 hours. Now I try to cap it at 2 hours. But anyway, this is another fun piece. This is from my Warriors of the Light, which is my fantasy project that I might be doing next. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And then, of course, this was the Thanksgiving special. This is pre-Kelsey. It was David Williams, me, and, of course, the great Mark Nelson, who was the Aliens artist for Dark Horse's original Alien series. But he's a great creature designer and world builder and just fantastic artist. And so we had him on, and he did like an alien turkey. I did a legit turkey, about ready to lose his head. And then David did Turkey Man, as I recall, which actually was pretty good superhero drawing. This was I can't remember what exactly. This is Space Genie. I don't know what prompted that, but there it is. And then, of course, the Larry Stroman episode where I did X Factor. So that's Guido or whatever his name is, big guy. And then the chick with the green hair, Polaris. And this really goes back almost 2 years. The Ymir from 20 Million Miles to Earth. Did that in full color. And then, of course, Fighting American, the getting squished by Round Robin. That was good times. That's actually a really nice piece. It's just no one knows who Fighting American is, but it was good fun. And then more recently, Colossus versus Igu. Which I did just a couple weeks ago. What, are you saying you're being bored, H&R? Jeez, man. Showing you artwork. Let's go through this real quick because I really want to put him to sleep. Snake Plissken. Pogo. Dark Wolf acrylic painting. How about that? That was like the second painting I ever did. Juggernaut. Not too long ago in Graybeards. Superman, just for the heck of it. Kind of lumpy Superman. I was kind of playing around stylistically. Red Sonja acrylic painting. How about that? The Grinch, just because. That was like my first acrylic right there. I was just kind of messing around, trying to kind of get a grip on the whole thing. Mr. Miracle from Graybeards. The Spirit and Piguel from... These were just when I was on cereal box character fad. I drew them all. It started off with a Frankenberry on the show, and then started doing Quisp. There's Count Chocula, Sugar Bear. And these are some of my favorite pieces right here. Uncle Creepy, very Bernie Wrightsony vibe there. And Cousin Eerie. Then I did the Three Witches we talked about. And this is the Vault Keeper from EC Comics, based on the Johnny Craig design. There's the Crypt Keeper based on the Jack Davis design. And then, of course, the Old Witch based on Graham Ingalls' design. Garbage Man just for recreational purposes. The Smoking Grinch. Santa for fun. This is one of the earliest episodes of Graybeards. That is, of course, Krampus. I did this man thing because you guys all know I love to draw a giant-sized man thing, and there he is. This is a nice one. I really like that piece. And, of course, the John Buscema episode. We'll talk about John in a little bit here. That's Weird World. And there you go. That... It's not really what's in my flat file, it's what's in my portfolio. Angela for 2. Mickey had a good quest. Graybeard art book. When? Oh, good question. Those things are so difficult because when you have multiple people involved, then it's like, how do you split this up? Who runs the campaign? Why do I have to do all the work? I might do another art book, though, of my stuff, including a lot of the Graybeard stuff. I don't know. That's a good question. Angela says she loves the man thing. Sketch FM from $1.99. Are you going to do a Morty the Meatball comic? I did that in my youth. I showed that on here once, I think. I actually think that Morty the Meatball is actually that's owned by whatever company, it was promoting spaghetti sauce or whatever. Jerome Moore, the great Jerome Moore. Hey, Jerome, stop mentioning your man thing. It violates the site's terms of service. I know. Sorry. Jerome, what a great artist Jerome is. Of course, he does most of his work and has for the last several years for Warner Brothers and product design and character design and all that kind of stuff. But tremendous artist. Aaron, I've been to your site, but I don't see these up for sale. Am I wrong? You are not wrong, Pity Maw. Anything that you see here, contact me directly. I don't have a ton of original art up on my website at the moment, but I keep wanting to get more stuff up there, and eventually I will. But in the meantime, just contact me directly if you're interested. Can I commission an onion head man? Wow. Probably the price has got to be right, though. Jerome, miss you, bud. Continued success. Thank you. Same to you. We should have Jerome. I don't know, Jerome. Would you come on the show and draw? Probably not. But would you? Because if you would, I'll invite you on. Well, let's just say I'm inviting you on officially right now to Graybeards Wednesday afternoon, 2 o'clock Pacific time. But you have to draw. So I'll throw that out there. That's what I thought. See, look, he's like, nobody wants to come on camera and draw. It's amazing. I almost did this. Sean Allen says, you should publish a coloring book for kids, for big kids. I almost did it. That was going to be my first project. And Graham Nolan talked me out of it. He goes, you out of your mind? He goes, no one's going to buy that. Publish a comic. And I went, okay. Because I actually have like a drawer full of illustrations I did specifically to do like, not an adult comic in the sense that it's, pornographic, but an adult meaning for, older readers to like a coloring book. So they're like, more detailed drawings, that type of thing. It's kind of an art book, but it's also a coloring book. Paul Taylor, Graham, saving Aaron from himself. Yeah, exactly. Anyway. See, there's Jerome. He's camera shy. Yeah. So was I once. Queen Mickey says, Aaron, send all the Graybirds original gangster art to me. I'll have it scanned, formatted, and run the campaign. I'll keep all the OG art as payment. Queen Mickey, you're so wonderful. Thank you for suggesting that. Okay. All right. So that's my artwork, but enough about me. Let's talk a little bit about the origins of the Yellow Kid, shall we? And why did I bring this up? Because we had a discussion on the professionals on the Tuesday show, last show, about the first comic book that had original material printed in. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we talked a little bit about some of the origins of comics and ones that are important? This is really significant in that it's considered the first newspaper comic strip. And it's also the first comic strip or the first comic to use word balloons. I don't think I have an example actually of the word balloons, which is kind of funny, but because this does not have any, the examples I have don't have any word balloons in them, but he actually was the first to use word balloons. But anyway, here's the comic strip. It's called The Yellow Kid. And it's just very bizarre because you had this snaggle-toothed, bald-headed kid running around in a yellow nightshirt with social commentary on his nightshirt. And this was in the late 1800s. Look at here, he is palling around with Buster Brown and some girl in a blue dress. When I read a little bit more about the Yellow Kid, I don't want to say it's creepy, but it's interesting considering the times. Okay. So the Yellow Kid, whose the character's name is actually Mickey Dugan. is an American comic strip character that appeared from 1895 to 1898 in Joseph Pulitzer's. Ever heard that name before? So before the Pulitzer Prize, there was Joseph Pulitzer's New York World newspaper. And then later that the strip jumped over to William Randolph Hearst's New York Journal. Created and drawn by Richard F. Outcult. In the comic strip Hogan's Alley, and later under other names as well, the strip was one of the first Sunday supplement comic strips in the American newspaper. It's considered to be the first, technically. It said, although its graphic layout had already been thoroughly established in political and other purely for entertainment cartoons, Outcult's use of word balloons in The Yellow Kid influenced the basic appearance and use of balloons in subsequent newspaper comic strips and comic books. This is interesting. The Yellow Kid is also famous for its connection to the coining of the term yellow journalism. The idea of yellow journalism referred to stories that were sensationalized for the sake of selling papers and was so named after the Yellow Kid's cartoons. How about that? Through his cartoons, Outcult's work aimed his humor and social commentary at Pulitzer's adult readership. The strip has been described as a turn-of-the-century theater of the city in which class and racial tensions of the new urban consumerist environment were acted out by a mischievous group of New York City kids from the wrong side of the tracks. So really, this isn't, you don't look at this as kind of being, you know, all fun and games. It's somewhat disturbing, really. Let's look at a couple more of these real quickly. So you got your Yellow Kid down here, right? And look at this guy. He's getting beaten with sticks. You got a kid falling out of the window up here, probably to his death, which apparently was not an uncommon occurrence in the slums of New York. On hot days, these kids would be hanging out the windows and would slip and fall. And so you've got this sort of low rent district sort of comic strip satirizing really grim stuff going on at the time. What they did to the dog catcher in Hogan's Alley, right? So there's the dog catcher getting the crap beat out of him, and they're burning his wagon, and everybody's watching and enjoying the whole show. And it's just, it's creepy. Here's another one. There's a lot of reading going on in there. We've certainly outgrown that. There's a couple more interesting tidbits here that's kind of... The Yellow Kid was a bald, snaggle-toothed, barefoot boy who wore an oversized yellow nightshirt and hung around in a slum alley typical of certain areas of squalor that existed in the late 19th century New York City. Hogan's Alley was filled with equally odd characters, mostly other children. With a goofy grin, the kid habitually spoke in a ragged, peculiar slang, which was printed on his shirt, a device meant to lampoon advertising billboards. Now, this is where it's just kind of grim and gross. The Yellow Kid's head was drawn wholly shaved, as if recently having been ridden of lice, a common sight among children in New York's tenement ghettos at the time. His nightshirt, a hand-me-down from an older sister, was white or pale blue in the first color strips and then became yellow later. Now, how is that for not exactly what I would call a jolly comic? Now, what does all this mean? Well, in 1897, we have the first comic book, not in the sense of comic books as we know them now, but collected newspaper strips and gag cartoons and single panels in this book format. And there you have it. The Yellow Kid, Volume 1, Number 1, price is 5 cents. Way back in 1897. In fact, let me read you what the price guide says about this. The Yellow Kid in McFadden Flats. Okay. That's what the newspaper strip. And if you can find one of these newspaper inserts, they're extremely rare and can be upwards of 20 grand or even more if you can find one. Now, the actual comic book that we're looking at here, this is 1897, and it went 11 issues. And it had reprints of the previous material that had appeared in the newspapers. So to say this was the first comic, it kind of was, but it wasn't original material, and it wasn't really a comic book. It was a collection of newspaper strips or newspaper single panel cartoons. But you could buy this for 5 cents. And this was weird. I mean, it just was weird. And if you can imagine what New York City must have been like around the turn of the century with, all the immigrants coming in and all the poverty and just crazy. But there you go. That is considered the forebearer of the modern comic book. So I don't know. We were talking about the Buster Brown comic that was a giveaway or a mail. It was the first nationally distributed comic book, even though again it was newspaper strip reprinted and collected. But this was Yellow Kid is given credit for starting the whole newspaper comic strip era, and then of course leading to comic books and so forth. So there you go. There's a little history going all the way back to the 1890s, a little bit of comic book knowledge and history. So how about that? All right. I'm going to play a little intro here, and I won't be sitting in this chair after it's over, but I will be seconds later. So hang in there with me. This isn't a magic trick. All I got to do is find my intro, and we're ready to rock and roll. Here we go. It's just like a circus trick. Okay. What did I buy now? Well, you can guess it was a comic book. And check this out. When you get a deal that is too good to pass up, guess what? You don't pass it up. So what did I get? I got this. This is Fantastic Four 129, the first appearance, you guessed it, Thundra. We all know and love Thundra, right? And the Frightful Four, too. This is a freaking 9/6 off-white to white pages. It would have been, of course, preferable to have white pages, but what are you going to do? This book, the last 3 sales on this book were $500 or more. I got it for half of that. I couldn't believe it. And so I grabbed it. Now, of course, this sold for half that price. Now it goes in, it actually helps lower the overall cost value of the book. But I'm the outlier, cheap sale, but I couldn't pass it up. I didn't necessarily want a 9/6, but again, 9/6 for half price. Are you kidding me? So I grabbed it, and there it is. 9/6, first appearance of Thundra. This was 1972. Can you believe that? How long ago? And how do you know it was 1972? Because the Marvel box cover, which I'm doing a Marvel box cover variant on Wraith of God 3 because it's so nostalgic. So there you go. 9.6. You can't do much better than that. So there you go. I'm not really an FF collector, but I find myself buying more and more FFs because there's so many big first appearances and even small first appearances. And I do collect Silver Surfer appearances. So I'm really toying with the idea now of going out and buying an FF48, which is the first appearance of the Silver Surfer. Now I can't get like a 9.2, obviously, because that's like 15 grand or something. But I can get a lower grade one. And I may do that. It's still really expensive, but I save my pennies and maybe San Diego or something, I'll get lucky. Why does my phone keep buzzing? Oh, my son is in Texas right now vacationing, and I told him to go to the Hard 8 barbecue. And he said he just dropped by there and there was a line around the door, so they're going to go back another time. I'm like, well, don't go on a Sunday. Everybody's probably there. But what a great barbecue experience that was. And that was when we went to the North Texas Comic Book Show. Graham Nolan was there. Rudy Nebres was there. Tony Isabella, when he was still a man, was there. Strowman was there. I don't know if they all went for barbecue or not, but they were at the show anyway. Yeah. Well, it's going to take more than her 50K for, I don't think so, for a 9.2 of, let me look real quick since you brought it up. Fantastic Four, number 48, first appearance of Silver Surfer and a cameo appearance of Galactus in 9.2, $8,000. Well, last sale was more like 10. They have it valued at $8,500, but last sale on that was $10,000 in January. That might be pumped up a little bit because of the movie coming out. Although with a female Silver Surfer, now, if you get up into the 9.8s, you know, like 9.4, 9.6, 9.8, now you're talking ridiculous money. Like a 9.8 is 65,000, 9.6 is 34 grand, a 9.4 is 14. So, you know, that's for the Graham has copies of those. Of course, he just reads them like they're toilet paper. Yeah, I know. That's why I referenced that. Shocking, but true. Leg kick, you're higher than a kite. I just looked. It's not 32 grand. If someone's asking 32 grand for a 9.4, they're crazy. I'm not going to get it. Okay. Exactly. Just use Nova. Exactly. She was actually the female Silver Surfer in the comics. Why not just use that? But no, they got to ruin everything. I don't care what Google says. I'm telling you, I looked at Go Collect, which charts sales and prices. And there was a guy at a con, right? This is what I'm talking about. This guy, some girl, a good-looking girl dressed up as Scarlet Witch, went to convention hopping, and she was at MegaCon, and she goes, I'm going to ask people, you know, what their most expensive book they have is. And one guy had Marvel Spotlight number 6, which is the second appearance of Ghost Rider. And he says, this is the second appearance of Ghost Rider. And it was a 9.8, right? So, but he says it's a 9.8 and it's $35,000. And I went, there's no freaking way that the second appearance of Ghost Rider in a 9.8 is $35,000. So I looked it up. Yeah, he was only off by about $30,000. It's about a $5,000, $6,000 book in a 9.8. And I'm like, could you overprice a little bit more? So just because it says on Google leg kick doesn't mean it's right. I'm looking at previous sales, and all the previous sales, the high was $10,000, and everyone before that were in that $8,000 to $9,000 range. So that's what I think. Paul Taylor says, well, a fool and his money are soon parted. If you're going to spend that much money on a book, don't you think you'd be aware of how much it's actually worth before you just shelled out the cash? But, I guess they figure they get what they can get. All right. Anyway, so I continue to buy books that I think have growth potential so that when I die, I have a really expensive estate sale. All right, let's take a look at this week's artist. And I realize we've been doing illustrators for a long time. And I've really been getting into John Buscema recently, more than I normally did. But I'm just really sort of appreciating what he's doing, or what he did, excuse me. And I thought, you could consider John Buscema an illustrator, right? I mean, he's obviously a comic book artist. 90% of his work is comic books, but he still had a very illustrative quality and was a very good illustrator. We're going to take a look at that right now with Big John Buscema. Yeah, let's take a look at a comic book artist. Why not? It doesn't always have to be an illustrator in the strictest sense. It could be a comic book artist who also is an illustrator. All right. Okay, here we go. Now, obviously, we're going to know John Buscema. Most of us will know John from his comic book work. But I'm hopefully going to, or his superhero work, excuse me. Hopefully I'm going to show you a few things that maybe you haven't seen before. But this you clearly have. Now this is why he's so great as a comic book artist. There's not a ton of detail in terms of line work and stuff, but the drawing is so solid. It's so good. And like the weight of the character, and there's just, his brother Sal inked him, who was his favorite inker. So you're getting the best look at Buscema. This was Silver Surfer #4, the splash page from Silver Surfer #4 with this great shot of Loki. I love the design. The only thing that would have been better here is if the letterist had actually done the lettering in perspective that was set up in this drawing. But other than that, fantastic. Love this piece. One of my favorite Buscema pieces. But see, that's the thing. John was not about style. He was all about drawing. Now, he had a style. He had a certain way he did things, of course. But the strength of his drawing was not as a stylist, but instead as an actual, the nuts and bolts, the foundation, the drawing is what made his stuff so great. Now, you may know this. You may not know this one. Now, this great Mephisto splash page, very sort of reminiscent of Loki on his throne. Now we have Mephisto on his throne. This was actually inked by John himself. This is the final splash page, spoiler, of Thor Annual number 13. It has a great Walter Simonson cover, but the whole thing is, in the inside is Buscema inked by himself. And it has Ulik, Thor, and Mephisto in it. And it is freaking awesome. And it's cheap. It's dirt cheap. You can go on eBay right now and get it for probably $5. Thor Annual 13. If you want to see some John Buscema goodness. And it was like 1983, I think. Maybe 84. Paul Taylor says, what's an Ulik? Ulik the troll, man. It was the trolls that made Thor's hammer. Come on, man. Get with it. Geek Easy says Byrne is one of my top artists. He's one of the great comic book artist for certain. But he, I don't think he can draw as well as John. Sorry, but I do love Byrne's stuff. Now, John and I got in a couple of fights on occasions, verbal sparring matches with not John Buscema, but John Byrne. So I don't hold him as higher regard as I do Buscema for personal reasons. Anyway, that is a great piece. So again, Thor Annual 13. It's dirt cheap. Check it out. In fact, I think I have it back here in the rack. There it is. Get this book. Look at me. It's my reader copy. I can mess with it. See, that's the page. That's what it looks like colored. Right there. Cheap. Cheap book with some great art in it. The great thing about John was he could he was a good painter too. This, of course, is Savage Tales #2. This is the cover to Savage Tales #2, painted by John Buscema. And you can see sort of this, I don't know if this is acrylics or oils. My guess is it's acrylics based on how, like if you look at the light, the shading on this girl's back, for example, or see how it's not really blended in there. It's just kind of rubbed on there over the top. That's how acrylics lay. And I would guess that if he was doing a cover for one of these magazines, you know, you do it in oil painting. It's, you know, what do you got? Weeks, months before it's dry enough to, you know, to use. So my guess is this is acrylics. But Marcus Killigrew, of course, is now going to tell me that I'm wrong, which I'm totally willing to accept that. Regardless of, boy, that's a pretty tight face for oils, though. Let's take a look here again. That's a pretty tight face for oils. But I don't know, so I'm not going to, certainly not going to argue with Marcus Killigrew, who knows all things about comics. So it could have been oils. But either way, terrific painting. And look at the figure work. The figure work is just so good. It's just so good. It's just like right on the money, you know? Well, most oils can dry in a few days. That's true. And it depends again. Are you using it straight out of the tube? Are you mixing it with linseed oil or some other, you know, a medium? And then, you know, so the more oil you're using with the oil paints, the longer it's going to take to dry. There is, of course, a fantastic, I don't want to call it a horror story, but story with Wrightson, who did a painted cover for a magazine that they were, that he and Jeff Jones, and I think Louise Simonson was in on it because Louise, I think, was married to Jeff Jones at the time. Talk about going off the rails. I'm not going too far off the rails here. Okay, so he painted this, right? And painted this in oils. Okay. And it had to get, he had to ship it to whoever was doing the photographing it for the cover, and they were on a tight deadline. He put it in the oven to dry it. And I guess it was on board. It curled up, and it was just turned into a nightmare for him. So again, depending on how thick you use your oil paints, and if you use them right out of the tube, or if you're using a medium to thin them out, it could take longer to dry. Mucky says oils smelling bad and brush cleanup are the bad parts. Yeah, that's what always keeps me from painting, is the setup and then the cleanup. And I'm like, oh, it's going to take me to get my palette together and put all this stuff. And then you're like, then once you're painting, it's great. But then you're like done. You're like, oh, I got to clean all this mess up. So I always end up talking myself out of painting. So anyway, let's back to John. Okay, now here's John Buscema, inked by Neil Adams and Krusty Bunkers, which is Neil Adams' gang, his name for the gang of guys that would help him. This is, what is this? Conan 45. So issues 45 and 46 of Conan, again, not very expensive books, have Neil Adams and Krusty Bunkers inking over John Buscema, which is always a fantastic look, in my opinion. And this is the stuff that Big John he didn't like superheroes, but he did like drawing Conan. He did like drawing fantasy stuff, because I think he felt it was more like in line with, his heroes like Hal Foster and others that, he always imagined himself being. And let's be honest, I've always felt this way, that fantasy, sword and sorcery, horror, these are genres where you can put more detail and more atmosphere into the artwork than you can in superhero work. I mean, you can put it in superhero work. The problem with that, doing it, is it doesn't necessarily seem, appropriate for superhero stuff. So if you look at my superhero stuff, you'll find it not to be anywhere near as detailed as the work I put into my fantasy or my horror stuff. Because this stuff, to me, tends to lend itself to more of an illustrative style, where superheroes is really more of a stylized approach. But again, everybody does their own stuff. And my opinions are simply my own. Now, here's one of the great projects that Buscema worked on that I love. And this is Warriors of the Shadow Realm. It was a 3-part magazine formatted story called in Marvel Super Special. I want to say 9, 10, and 11, or 10, 11, and 12, or 11, 12, and 13, something somewhere in there. This was inked by Rudy Nebrez, colored on the board, on the paper, as you can tell by looking at this, by Peter Ledger. And somebody owns this page, and they have it on Comic Art Fans. They're not selling it, but man, I would love to have this page. I've got a page from this book, but I love this page. And I always loved Nebrez over Buscema, because Buscema's structure is so good. His drawing is so good. And Nebrez's drawing is inconsistently weird. And sometimes he nails it. Sometimes it's just weird looking. But I love his finishes. So if you put him finishing over the top of someone who really sound in their drawing, you get beauty. And I love this for that reason. The problem with this whole series was there wasn't enough splash pages. There was splash pages and double page spread, but they were more like pullback shots of lands, the cities and towns they were going to and things like that, environment. There wasn't like big character splashes, which I would have liked to see more of. This is the closest thing to a big character splash. I love that fish in the foreground. But yes, alas, someone else owns it, and my guess is they're not parting with it cheaply. Oh, who had stomach cancer? Oh, John Buscema, I assume. Yeah, it's unfortunate. He was at San Diego. The last time he was at San Diego before he passed away, and he was never at his table. I went back there several times because I wanted to get a sketch from him or something. You know, if he was selling original artwork, buy something from him. And he was never at his table. I did get Marie Severin to do me a sketch though at that same show, so it wasn't a total loss. But yeah, I was pretty disappointed. Wet palettes are great with acrylics. Indeed, they are. In fact, I have one. When I started painting, I did the Kit Carter painting, of course, for the movie poster, which is available on my website, by the way. And thank you for the $2, Sean. And so I bought. Someone had recommended. Oh no, I saw a video on acrylic painting because I was trying to figure out how to use the paints, and someone had suggested it was like this plastic box that has this sponge in it, sort of this sheet sponge, and you get that wet, and then there's a kind of absorbent palette paper that you put over the top of that sponge, and that keeps your paints wet, and so it keeps it from drying. And then you just put the lid on it. So if you're done for the day, you just put the lid on it and save the paints. I always put a little water on top of all the colors I've got on the palette just to make sure they stay moist. But yeah, it works really, really well. And you can get them. They're relatively cheap, like on Amazon or whatever. Thank you for that. Baking parchment. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's like the parchment paper you use for baking. Yeah. Marcus Kilgore says, I met John Buscema at a con in New York once. And I couldn't even speak. It was like meeting Joe DiMaggio. Yeah. Yeah, I never got to meet him. I tried hard, though. Now, here's a great Conan page. This is from Savage Sword. I don't know the issue number. I don't think it's up there. Maybe it is. Inked by Nebraze. I love this page. Someone actually owns this page on Comic Art Fans as well. And I would like to buy it from him too, but I don't think he's selling. What number is that? It's page 18. Is that 34? No, that says, it says INV. Savage Sword of Conan. It's got the name of the story, but it doesn't have the issue, probably because they didn't know what issue they were going to put it in. It was just, maybe it was an inventory. But look at this right here. That drawing of Conan and the inking on it. See, it's like, to me, Nebraze sort of kept the look of Buscema, right? You can see that's a Buscema face, but he added all this little juicy line work and stuff that Buscema didn't normally do. And unlike Alcala and some of the other guys, they weren't as controlled as Nebraze. And so I always thought Alcala's stuff was, I don't know, a little heavy-handed. This, I don't know. I mean, you just say Nebraze wasn't heavy-handed would be a misstatement, because he clearly was, but he does a good job of saving Buscema's drawing and just augmenting it with extra line work and things like that. I don't know. I love Nebraze, and so it's like one of those things. If you love his work, then you love him. If you don't, you don't. But this is a great page. Just really, I just love this last panel here. It was just fantastic. Paul Taylor says that Conan painting you did was pretty good. Thank you. Somebody bought that. Okay, now, Buscema also did a portfolio like in 77, 78 of Conan art. Now, this is interesting because this is all pencil linked by him, but if you look at this, what he did with this lizard here, how it kind of trails off. Now, I'm not going to say that Boris Vallejo invented this style, but this is very prominent in Boris's work, in his pen and ink work. If you go back and look at his black and white stuff, he would often do that. You have it hyper detailed all through here, and then it would just kind of bleed off into nothingness. So I don't know if that's where Buscema got that technique, or if someone else, they were borrowing from someone else. Both of them were. Yeah, I never liked Ernie Chan over Buscema. In fact, I hated it. Not a Roy Thomas paired Chan with, yeah, didn't like it. Now, this is not from that Conan portfolio. It's from a National Cartoonist Society portfolio or something and it has a ton of pieces in it. This is like one of Buscema's best pieces ever, in my opinion. And this is inked by Buscema as well. He did great job with like big cats. Really, really did. And big women too. But look at, I really like this kind of Nordic Viking guy in the foreground. Just the posturing, the musculature, the pose. It seems so natural. There's nothing stiff about it. This tree is great. It's very Frazetta-esque. If you look up here, like this is, they could have gone solid black here. He doesn't. It's very line work rendered. And then you got some heavy blacks down here on the bottom to weight that out, when you're laying down heavy blacks, one thing you want to be careful about is like if you go in and put a heavy black on this leg like he did here, but you don't have any other blacks to balance it in the rest of the piece, it'd look odd. But so he's got this heavy shadow work here along the side of this tree and these like giant mushroom things, whatever. That's very cool. And then you got some heavy black underneath here, and then on the tiger, and then the black of her hair sort of balances out that black, and it doesn't seem unusual, even though there's no real heavy shadows on him other than right here under the shield, a little bit here on the forearm. But if Wrightson had drawn this, it would have been probably 70% shadow, but just enough, and it's carried through the whole illustration that it really works. I just love this piece, man. But I'm not paying $600 to get a portfolio that just for this one plate, but it's fantastic. Henry Jeremick says, Aaron, in my opinion, only when John Buscema inked himself, you can see elements of Joe Kubert's style here and there, now and again. Yes, I wouldn't disagree with that. Marcus says, John would get the itch to ink himself and Marvel would let him, but after a couple of issues, he would daze this, taking too long, and go back to layouts and pencils. But after a couple of issues, it was taking him days to do it. It was taking too long. So, and that is kind of the thing, right? It's like, I mean, I like inking myself too, but I just spent 3 days. I should show you guys the page. In fact, I will. Yes, that's the whole point. His poses were so natural. Okay. This is from that Conan portfolio, I'm pretty sure, here as well. That Conan portfolio can be had like for $125, $150 on eBay. They got a couple of them up there right now. I like this piece a lot, but it's not as good as the one we just looked at. It's similar, but it's not as good. That tiger is very similar, as a matter of fact. I love Buscema's loose inking, and I like what Robert Della Torre is doing on the new Conan book. He's very much doing this style of Buscema, and I'm not usually a fan of people aping somebody else's style so completely as he's doing on that Conan book, but man, it does. I got to admit, it does look good. This is maybe his most famous Conan piece. David Finch has a channel where he, paints and draws. He doesn't do it regularly, but if you follow him on YouTube, he does he has what's his face, a painting instructor whose name escapes me at the moment, but he's really good, and they repaint this. You know, each of them does their own version. It's really cool in acrylics. This was a pinup in either Savage Tales or Savage Sword of Conan. There's just so much good material in like Savage Sword of Conan that Buscema did that you just are completely unaware of. Now this is Buscema doing Khazar from Savage Tales #1, I believe. This is a really good story. But just look at the energy as Khazar is holding back Zabu from these dinosaurs. That's a great thing about like the Savage Land, is that like you had dinosaurs existing with, you know, saber tooths, and it's basically they throw everything in there. So a lot of fun. His dinosaur is not great, you know. Sorry, John, no offense, but that Khazar Sabu drawing is awesome, and it is a really, really good story. I have a couple people are asking me, what about the Byrne story? How did you get in a fight with John Byrne? I went to dinner with him. Well, me and Rick Leonardi were at Motor City Con, and we were going to go out to dinner, and Byrne like came up to Leonardi and he's like, hey, what are you doing, man? You want to get dinner? He goes, oh, I'm going with Aaron Lopresti. He goes, oh, I'll just come with you guys. And we got in an argument about Christianity, and he had a really retarded viewpoint and kind of pissed me off. So we got into it a little bit about that over dinner. And then I saw him at a Dark Horse Con. We were in a big island of artists together, and he was sitting there, and, you know, we said hey or whatever to each other. And I don't know what prompted me to do this. He must have said something, because I'm generally not one to start stuff. But I remember saying to him, oh, look, the great John Byrne, and nobody's at you've gotten nobody at your table, because it was just dead in there. It was dead. And I think I was just giving him a hard time. I don't think I was being seriously jabbing him, but, you know, just kind of having a little fun with him. And he goes, well, look who's talking. You don't have anybody at your table either. And I go, yeah, but I'm not supposed to. So I got the last word on that. But anyway, there you go. That was pretty much it. Look at this. This is from Savage Sword of Conan. This is Buscema, inked by Tony DeZanuga. And this, I hope I pronounced that right. This is great. This story is really nice looking story. Crawlers in the Dark. I can't remember what issue is it, like 43 or 45, something like that, of Savage Sword of Conan. Again, not an expensive issue. I've got it in my closet. I specifically bought it just to read this story. And because I thought this splash page image was just dynamite. And the story is really good. I mean, the artwork in it, the story is, you know, whatever. But the artwork in it is really, really good. So like saying, there's all these hidden Buscema gems in Savage Tales and Savage Sword that there's a great, what is it? It's in Savage Tales 7? I think 7. Khazar's story that Buscema drew, and Neil Adams or Krusty Bunkers inked. That's really, really nice too. But yeah, so that's kind of a look at, if you get into Buscema's barbarian work and his fantasy work, he's like a whole nother artist. And I love his superhero stuff from the 60s, you know, and into the 70s. His Avengers work, his Thor work. I mean, he took over everything, right? His Fantastic Four work. It's all great. This issue that I showed you, this is John Buscema. And it's great. I mean, all of his stuff is great, but if you if we want to talk about him as an illustrator, take a look at his fantasy stuff, his barbarian work, Conan stuff, and one of the issues of Savage Sword, and I don't remember off the top of my head, he did a Robert E. Howard gallery in the back. So he has a drawing of King Cole, Solomon Kane, Conan, of course, Red Sonja, and those are really cool. I got to get that issue. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you just Google Buscema like King Cole or Buscema Solomon Kane, it'll come up and it'll give you the issue number of it was Savage Sword, but I can't remember which issue. But those are on my hit list too, just to get that gallery in the back. So there you go. That's our look at John Buscema. We have over 300 people watching right now. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate if you hit the like and subscribe to this channel if you have not already. And please be aware that I do have a show's not over, by the way. I'm just taking a sidebar here. I do have a campaign called Wraith of God #3 Fear Hollow for graphic novel, a continuing series. The Wraith and Esther go against the Headless Horseman. So this was a really fun and creepy issue. So I would, if you have not backed this, I would appreciate it if you would go over to check out the campaign, see if it's something you might be interested in. You'll find a link in the description of this video. In fact, since we're bringing it up, and I want to make a point, let me grab the page I just finished. So I made a comment on Twitter earlier today or last night where it's funny how sometimes you can spend 2 to 3 days working on a page that someone's going to look at for a minute or less. This one has a little bit of dialogue on it, so maybe it'll be more than a minute. Anyway, so let me show you this. It's not cleaned up or anything, but it is inked. So you can see this is Jacob and Esther kind of walking around Cranestown. But all these backgrounds and the character drawings, this stuff, I mean, it takes time. And the interesting thing, the more people or characters, creatures, whatever that you have on a page, the longer it's going to take you to draw. I know that shouldn't be a shock to anybody, but generally speaking, you want to keep for, again, if you're fighting deadlines and all that kind of stuff, pages with 12, 13 characters on them or less, that's about what you want to get max. There are, and this is counting just headshots too. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 different drawings of people or characters on this page. You take that along with the backgrounds, which are all fairly involved, as you can see. You got to deal with all that perspective and stuff. It can take you some time. And so you spend a bunch of time on this, which is essentially a dialogue page, right? And someone will look at this for about a minute and move on. You go, I spent 3 days on that. Anyway, this is just before the S hits the fan in the issue. But I won't be showing this anyplace else. I'm not going to post these on the campaign. I will periodically show pages on this show or Graybeards that I won't put anywhere else because I'm probably showing you guys too much artwork because I don't want to, ruin it for everybody. But I like you also to know what's going on and where we're at and all that kind of stuff. Shadows Pond says, looks fantastic, Aaron. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. She would not approve of drinking, but she's not going to go in there and judge those guys. They're going in there for information. Anyway. Brian 999 says Kit Carter has beautiful art and witty banter. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. It's obviously a very different type of book. It's a comedy, sort of comedy adventure, and it is available on my website as well. So if you miss Kit Carter, go check it out. Everything, I still have hardcovers left, not many, but I have a few of the limited edition hardcovers, and I have several of the paperbacks, and I have movie posters left as well, and sketchbooks. All the material from that campaign is available on my website. And I do want to bring up something else too. I'm thinking about it. I talked about this on Graybeard, so I'll bring it up here. I'm going to do a special garage sale live stream. Okay, not an auction, but a garage sale. So there'll be art, there'll be books, there'll probably be some prints. I haven't collected everything yet, but what I'll be doing is, like, if you were to go to a garage sale and find this stuff, it's going to be marked down, like 50% off type stuff. And there'll be and people will be able to, if you want them, you can buy it in the chat, just like you would an auction, except they're going to be set prices, but they're going to be low garage sale prices. So, and there will be some original artwork and some other things. So I'm used to do that for fun, see how it works out. I think Gary will be joining me because he had some things he wanted to move or try to move. Old Dirty Fatty says no haggling. Well, too difficult to haggle over the chat. So, but I'm thinking maybe of doing it during this show next weekend. So Mark, once I get it figured out, I'll let you guys know with plenty of time to spare. But like I said, there'll be some books, there'll be some deals on different things. I'm putting together like all the stretch goals from all the campaigns into one big pile, and say, hey, you can have it for $20 or whatever, and there'll be some books that I worked on at low prices, just things like that. And if they sell, they sell. If they, great. If they don't, they don't, but we'll see how it works out. Well, I've got my website where I put all this stuff up there, but, and I don't have to pay eBay. So that's my goal, is to continue to push the website and put more and more stuff. Like, I got to get Kit Carter originals up on my website. But no, it'll be fun. So I probably next Sunday, rather than doing a special stream, like on Friday afternoon or whatever, I'll just do it on Sunday. And since we've already got the time slot, and go ahead and do it and see what happens. So there you go. Okay. Well, guys, you know what time it is now. There's no getting around it. We have to face the truth that there's things out there that we just don't understand. But what I don't understand is how come we can't find any proof? All right. What did I find this week? Well, I'm happy to report that 2025 has brought more videos and photographs, allegedly, of the unknown. So I'm not like digging to try and find, something that we haven't looked at before, because there's new stuff popping up all the time. But we're going to go way back in time for this first one. You could say that the Patterson-Gimlin film of Bigfoot, the famous one that we all know from 1969, if memory serves, that's what started all this stuff. I was going to say silliness, but, when I was younger, I was a believer for sure. See, Lopez and his anti-foot crusade is infuriating. But there was actually something before the Patterson-Gimlin film that inspired the Gimlin film. And I don't know that I've ever seen this. This is the Ray Wallace film Okay, now it was in the same area. He was a road construction worker. They were working on a highway or something up in California in this mountain range area where the Patterson-Gimlin film was shot. He came up with this, and this inspired Patterson and Gimlin to go make their film. And this is, let's take a look at the original Bigfoot film. As you can see, it's clearly in focus. Very easy to make out details. So guys on all fours eating some vegetation, it looks like, maybe. Clear as a bell, you know. Now, this guy, Ray Wallace, the construction worker who made this movie or took this film, apparently even his family called him out as being, he was a phony, because he had allegedly found footprints in this area of a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and which at that point was just sort of an Indian legend, right? And then they started filming it, and suddenly it became this, you know, what it is today. But his family members were saying that he faked the footprints and stuff like that. So he doesn't have a lot there. Look, look at how bad that is. My gosh, I could have sculpted something better than that. There's Ray Wallace with his wife, Elna. And there's the casting he made of the Bigfoot's foot, which doesn't look like a real foot at all. So there's that. And then he shows up at a later time with this incredibly sharp and convincing footage of this guy in a suit. But it could be an ape man. Sure, it could be. So Patterson and Gimlin see this and they're like, hey, we're going to go there and hunt for Bigfoot too. And then, of course, they got their footage, which I'd like to point out looks nothing like this Bigfoot. So, you know, there you go. Angela Curry, what year is this? This is 69, 68 or 69. Shortly before the Patterson-Gimlin film. So let's say 68 to give him a year. Muckies says that could just be a Canadian. We are low resolution and blurry. Okay. Thought it was funny that they had the USA versus Canada hockey game not too long ago, and all the Canadians were booing the guys singing the national anthem, and then the USA went out and beat them 3-1. So a little bit of revenge there, I guess. But I guess some Canadians aren't too happy with Trump. What a shock. Oh, here we go. Smithsonian got to the family, made them denounce it. Okay, so Danke is now telling me that this is a conspiracy theory, that there actually was real Bigfoot, but the government doesn't want us to know about it. So therefore, they coerced his family into saying he was a liar. Okay. Danke, I don't know if I'm buying that. I don't know if I'm buying what you're selling. Iodine 74 says, don't forget the 3 fist fights in the first 9 seconds. I didn't watch the game, but or the match or whatever they officially call it. Hockey is a great sport to watch in person, not so great on TV. I used to go to, we had a, okay, I know I'm off subject here, but we used to go to, we have a minor league hockey team here in Portland. We used to go when I was in high school. We used to go all the time, my dad and I, and watch hockey, and enjoyed it quite a bit, but I don't really watch it on TV. Mucky says that Canadians are passive aggressive. It's part of our heritage. Okay. Okay, so I started like Canadian hockey angst in the chat. So anyway, so that is I'd never seen the Ray Wallace film before, but there it is. the convincing Ray Wallace film of Bigfoot that then, of course, led to the Patterson-Gimlin film that people are still arguing about whether it's real or not to this day, when we all know, quite frankly, that it's fake. So anyway, let's, but that doesn't mean that Bigfoot is fake. Okay. It just means that everybody that shot a film up to this point has been faking it, but that doesn't mean that there's not some reality out there. And, let's take a look at this one. Maybe this will be the one that changes our mind. Now, I will say that I have on a couple of occasions on this show, I have recognized that there are a few good Bigfoot films out there that I thought were fairly convincing. Now, of course, being cynical like I am, I don't believe they're real, but I was convinced that I thought it was a really good job. So, I'm not saying that there's no chance that there isn't a Bigfoot. I'm just saying we need a more consistently produced video evidence that he's real. Let's take a look at this. Guy thinks maybe there's a bear. The arrow is pointing to something, and I cannot even see what it is. Here we go. Okay, so it's bald Bigfoot. Now, is there anything about that blue forehead right there, that bowling ball right here, that makes you think that that's not a mask? So I guess his eyes are down. Is this what we're looking at right here? Is that it? I don't, until you zoom in, I can't even see it. Okay, so there he is. Okay. Again, looks nothing like the other films of Bigfoot. Okay, so his nose is right here. That's an eye over here. I guess his mouth would be down here. And this is his really bad hairline. So I think that's what we're looking at. Although that could be anything. That could be somebody's like stocking cap hanging on a tree for, can't really tell much from this. Except that Bigfoot has, if that is Bigfoot, he has a really bad hairline. Eric Boyd says, I can't make out Jack sheet. We have some Jack sheets on our bed. They're really comfortable. We're still debating. You guys, we're looking at Bigfoot evidence right now, and you guys are debating hockey. Big feet, bald head. Yeah, it sounds like me. Although my feet aren't that big. I wear a size 11. This, I guess, is fairly good size, but not like, mutant big. Jerry Roscoe, of course, pointing out that could be a bald butt cheek of a black bear with mange or something. See, Jerry's always thinking. He's like a scientist. I expect Paul, our biologist, to be the scientist here, but it's really Jerry is bringing the deep thinking about this. And that's a very good point. Randy Howell, of course, agreeing there with Jerry, saying that I hope that's not a monkey butt. Yeah, it could be, I suppose. But we wouldn't have a monkey in that sort of like, this is like supposed to be Washington State, I think, is where that was filmed. Aaron should be talking. Of course, he's talking about bald heads. And with that kind of disrespect, you get that. You notice the guy that got hit with the cannonball was also bald. I think there's more bald people than there are people with hair. I might be wrong about that. Okay, so I'm not going to say I'm very convinced with that. Now, what do you guys think of this? This is just a photo off a trail cam. I'll give him credit. At least it's clear. What do you think of that? I mean, you got the eyes in there. I mean, it could be just a really. I think the forehead, the brow, looks like a rubber mask. That makes it kind of look like a rubber mask. It doesn't look natural to me. Those deep crevasses here on his forehead. That all looks like it's sort of cut out right there. It doesn't look like natural brow structure, but it's not bad. I mean, I like the mouth down here with the teeth and the eyes look good. It's like they did a little work with the mask to, and who knows, maybe this is a CGI image. I have no idea. Mike TV Dub says that looks like Burt Reynolds after a 3-day bender. Let's see. Von Beck says, no, it's John Malin camping. Oh. Now, I'm not going to cannonball you because I actually thought that was funny. Well, at least Aaron's is hairier than the yellow kid. It is true. I have not had lice, so I've not had to shave my head. Geeky says that looks like he sells Geico insurance. Chocolate says it could be AI. Mucky says that's my Uncle Peter. Danky Frankie, no, this is kind of a contradiction in terms, though. He says, I believe in Bigfoot more than I believe in evolution. Bigfoot is less fantastical, yet Bigfoot would actually be an argument for evolution if he existed, right? I mean, that's what they would claim anyway, is that he was the missing link. Creative Faye, she knows. She knows. She says it's a mask. Brian suddenly holds, that's the kid from Land of the Lost grown up. The little monkey boy or whatever he was. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it. I think it's pretty good mask, I guess. But the forehead, like I said, the forehead it just looks like it's carved. It doesn't look natural. Okay, how about this? Also from the state of Washington, just another photograph. We don't have a lot of movies this week, a lot of stills. Well, this is kind of... I mean, I like how he's get that little sun flare there on the lens. It's almost romantic. I mean, what are you supposed to make of this, right? Is it a guy in a suit? Is it AI? Is it, CGI? Is it I Spy? I mean, who knows? We can't really tell much from this. We get a little bit. Maybe we can see just a bit of his face here, maybe. Kind of a short arm here, as far as I can tell. Looks like he has pretty short arms, but yeah, I mean, you either get blurry videos or blurry photographs. And so what are we to make of all this? Nothing, really. That's why people put this stuff on their TikTok. If it was actual, wouldn't it be like the news picking this stuff up? I-974, clearly that's Chewbacca out taking a leak. Could be. Not tall enough, though, I don't think. Maybe, though. It's hard to tell. Creative Face says, as a Washington resident, I can confirm Bigfoot doesn't exist, but trolls do, which you can read about in my book. Creative Face has a book on Amazon right now. So you check that out. Okay. Jerry Rasco says, you think I am cynical? Listen to Jerry. Anytime it's a still, I assume it's a doctored werewolf decoration from Halloween. That could be a cardboard cutout, too, for all we know. Geek Easy. Sun flashes. He says, looks like the guy who shot the Star Trek reboot picture. That's true. J.J. Abrams with all of his lens flares. Brian, this is an excellent point. It's 2025. We have 200 megapixel phones. No excuses for blurry photos unless you blur them up after the fact, which we know is a technique that several phony films have been outed for. Phil says, I love my George Foreman grill. I don't know what that has to do with anything. We need a Greybeards where we draw each other as Bigfoot. That should, maybe, next time I pick topics, I'm going to go Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, we'll do like cryptids or mammal cryptids or alien cryptids or dinosaur cryptids, something like that. Stuffed Creative Face says that's a stuffed trash bag covered in fake hair. Could be. All right, now here we have a movie. I almost didn't show this because it's so absurd, and yet it's pretty well done. But none of us are believing it for a minute, I don't think. But you be the judge of it. Maybe this is lurking in your neighborhood. You tell me. Here we go. Nope. I mean, I like it. It's clearly one of the tough giveaways here is why do we cut it off right there? Why don't we see this creature leaving the frame? You know why? Because that's like another month's work of animation work in the CGI lab. Brian, I've had you guys, you see, your problem is you need to watch my show every week. And the problem is you guys don't. And this is what you miss. I've had Pete on twice, and we have talked about cryptids both times he was on. Now, he's a believer, but he was unimpressed with the video evidence that I had. So he and I were both in agreement that the videos that I showed him both times you're on were not great. This is, I mean, look, they did a good job of the lighting. I like how it sort of creeps out of the darkness, so it's kind of scary. Design is interesting, sure. The shadow work on this is really, really good. But at the same time, if you look, and the musculature and everything is really good, but at the same time, as you look at it, you can clearly see it's, computer generated. And also the fact that we didn't get this, why does he cut it off right there? Why doesn't he have the creature exit the frame entirely? Because if this actually was on your door camera, you'd have the whole thing. But why do we cut it right here? Because I don't want to animate anymore. That's why I cut it right there. Oh, you meant have Pete on Greybeards to draw if you do that. So, I get you. Okay. Does Pete draw? I guess he does, doesn't he? Oh, maybe I will. That's a good idea. But you can just tell by the smoothness of the skin. This is clearly CGI, but pretty well done, though. I'm going to give him credit for, you'd get an A in my class for this. Well, no, you get a B because you didn't have him exiting all the way through. You got to think this through because that makes it more realistic. Marcus Killaroo says Pete Smetty's good. Okay. When we do cryptids on Greybeards, I'll get Pete on. Okay. There you go. Promise. I've still got to get who's Angela Curry's favorite that we haven't got on Greybeards yet. What's his name? She's bugging us forever. Well, see, Kelsey knew him, and I was going to have Kelsey get in contact with him and have him on the show, and then Kelsey left. So I kind of threw that up in the air. I've got several guests that I want to have on the show. The problem is I'm waiting for David Williams to come back because I don't want to have big guests on the show when David's not there. Because a lot of these are guys that he would like to meet and would like to be on the show with. So we're kind of treading water until David gets back. He says, I know you've had Pete on your Sunday show. Okay, you're talking about Greybeards. All right, I get it. I'm sorry. Yeah, Shelby Patterson, right? Something like that? No, Shelby Johnson. Shelby. Yeah. If he's watching, I just insulted him, so now he'll never come on. But no, that was like Kelsey knew him, and we're going to say, okay, well, we're going to bring him on, and then Kelsey just disappeared. And so that kind of put a wrench in that. But that doesn't mean I won't have him on. I'm just saying that, yeah, Shelby Robertson, not Patterson, Robertson. Okay. Sorry, Shelby. Shelby has been on the studio Saturdays at 7 p.m. Okay. So you guys are trying to compete with Graybeards. I see what you're doing. Stealing my ideas and trying to stab me in the back the first chance you get. Of course, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I encourage you guys to do more. It's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye. I thought Kelsey was Bigfoot. He actually may be Bigfoot. He's as elusive as Bigfoot for sure. I'm going to check in real quick to make sure I didn't miss any super chats. I did not. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this show. Well, again, 2.5 hours. That's content, man. Multiple topics. It is, of course, the variety show of YouTube channels. So, again, if you guys have not hit the like and subscribe button to support this channel, I would greatly appreciate it if you would do that. Also, take a run over to my website. You'll find a link in the description of this video to check out the cool things there. Or if you have not backed Wraith of God 3 Fear Hollow yet, please check out the campaign, see if it's something that might interest you. Again, you'll find a link in the description of this video. So next week, it may be garage sale time. I'll let you know several days in advance once I get it all figured out. But that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it very much. Couldn't do the show without you. And, oh, Angela, chocolates curry for 5. I'm good with waiting. I believe in Kelsey like Joe Hendry. Shelby usually streams when you do, so you're good. He's also in school right now. Okay. I'm not in school. And I feel comfortable saying I have no plans to ever go back to school. There's an Ed Sullivan reference right there. And Creative Faye is like, what are you, like 23 or something? And she knows Ed Sullivan. Incredible. Incredible. All right, guys. Thank you. We will see you next time right here on Aaron Live. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and good night.